I ended up getting pregnant, and that's when the abuse started. So then when things got to be totally unbearable for me and I really wanted out, the out was always available to me, but in my fear, I didn't believe I had an out. And so I felt trapped. And so it's the first time in my life that I actually prayed. And I turned to God and I said, I'm so trapped. I don't know what to do. Please, help me.
Welcome to Ordinary People with Extraordinary Stories. I'm Chana Weisberg, host of this podcast. Joining me today, we have a dear friend. Her name is Frumma Kulek, who has recently moved to my neighborhood. You may recall many, many months ago, I interviewed a Yossi Kulik, who didn't know Frumma at the time, and he was her son. He is her son, and his was called "I'm a Rabbi and I'm Black." And he told us an incredible story of his mother, her courage, her determination to become religious, and the story that ensued. And at the time, I didn't know Frumma, but I've recently met Frumma because she moved to our neighborhood. And I was sitting in shul, and I heard behind me the most beautiful, angelic voices. It was of Frumma and her daughter. She has a daughter with a disability who was there, and they were praying like little angels. And when I looked around and turned around and saw who it was Frumma. And that was when I decided I really have to get her story out there. So, Frumma, thank you so much for joining us today. I know this is the first time that you are sharing your story, and it's a little intimidating to do so, but we thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you. Thank you for
Thank
your
you.
warmth and your friendship.
Thank you. So, Frumma, start us off at the very beginning, how your whole story started. How did you have a son like Yessi, who is a beautiful son, but he's also half Black, right?
Right. Um, I guess I have to back up to like as a very sweet, angelic girl that just always did, the right things and very studious and very so much so um and very loving and very simple parents, but very tremendous wisdom. Like they really helped me through everything that I went through. And it was so much so that I have this memory of me like in fourth grade that I had a laughing attack in my class, and the teacher, sent me into the coat room because it was disrupting the class. And this boy came back um, from like, I don't know, appointment, and he saw me there and he kept trying to pull me out. Like, there's no way that I would be sent out of class, not you. Like, so going from that to how did I get to so the story sort of enveloped, and I kind of want to like preface that I think that this Torah portion, we're speaking about the blessings and the curses. So, the Rebbe it said that there really is no curses. It's the blessings, and in the things that don't necessarily look like blessings are really blessings. So I just want to like say that I think that's my story. If I want to
Oh,
put it in a nutshell, that's my story. So what made like looked like not the blessing is like when I got into junior high school, I started getting bullied. And as being bullied, I asked my mother, like, help, like, I don't know what to do. And she tried to call the school and nothing helped. And so in my teenage mind, I had this brilliant idea that the way to solve my problem was to get in with the cool kids. That was my goal. I got to get in with the cool kids because that way, I'll get a position that isn't going to be, and so that's pretty much how my story ended up is I had a friend who was friends with this girl from another high school who was a really cool girl. So I became really good friends with her, and then I became friends with her friends. And that's sort of how that transpired that I ended up meeting this boyfriend who was a super cool kid. And that was how that all happened to that ha
Wow.
yeah,
How old were you at that time?
about 16. It was about,
About 16.
yeah, a little under 16, around 16, yeah.
So that must have been really hard being bullied
Oh, no, when I was bullied, I was younger. I was, like,
younger.
13, yeah, but then
Right. But this
that's
is already when you were with the cool kids.
right, this is when I'm with the cool kids, so that's how that
Right.
shy, like, studious girl got involved with these group of kids, and then I found out the cool kids are really troubled kids. They come from troubled homes, and this was their
Mm,
cover up, including my
mhm,
boyfriend. He was obviously troubled. That,
mhm,
and, but to me, he was everything that I wanted to be, which was popular,
mhm.
outgoing, charismatic, lots of friends that really looked up to him, and I thought, "Oh, he's gonna fill in my gaps,"
Of
that was
course.
right. That's
Of
that
course.
that's
And
how
what was your parents' reaction to your relationship with him?
well, that's a good question, and like I said, my parents have a lot of wisdom, even though they're very
Mhm,
simple, so I kinda hid it from my mother because I grew up in a very strong identity as being Jewish, but without a Jewish education, and, my mother, when I was young, got only kosher meat, and we switched her dishes for Pesach, and, like, just very like, an identity of being Jewish, that was very clear, so I knew she would not approve of it. So basically, I hid it from her until, like anything you hide from your mother, eventually you get caught, right? So I got caught, and I said, "Well," I said to her, "I really love him." And in her wisdom, she said, "You don't know what love is."
Mhm,
And that was but my parents never rejected me,
mhm,
and they always were there to support me, even with my struggle, whatever my struggle was. So, you know, we really had this intention of both of us. I think he saw me as this, like, really, like, good girl. Like, he saw that
mhm.
in me, although he couldn't embrace it. Like, he didn't know how to embrace somebody that good. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Mhm,
There was, like, that
mhm.
and
He was attracted to the goodness, and you were attracted to this coolness or
right.
this,
So we and
this.
we really didn't it wasn't like a one-time thing. We really both decided we were gonna get married. Like, that was where we were gonna go eventually down the road. That's sort of where we were looking.
And tell us a little about his background.
Well, like I said, he's he was from a troubled home. So he had to
He was an African American.
right, and
He was in your school? He was living in your
well,
school? He was where
he was in this cool girls high school, which was
in the cool girls' high school,
right,
right.
which was the high school, neighboring high school. So that
Mhm,
was in Cleveland Heights, and I was in South Euclid.
mhm,
So it was the neighboring high school, and,
mhm,
so, yeah, we just developed this relationship, each one looking to the other one to kind of fill in what they didn't have,
mhm,
and it didn't work. Definitely didn't work, but, like I said, he was from a troubled background. He had I think, his mother was married several times, and, he I don't know if he was I think he was in trouble with the law at some point, and then he moved in with an uncle who lived
mhm,
in Cleveland Heights, and that's how he went to the school, but, um, I think his mother had, alcohol problems, like, I think it was just a troubled background,
mhm,
and, but, I was I'm very passionate about Geula, I'm very passionate about the whole idea of a perfect world, and I think back then, not knowing how to define that,
mhm.
I defined it as, like, I don't see any difference between color, race, I mean,
Sure.
I saw this as, you know
Or religion because,
right,
it didn't right.
right, so I didn't see any of those differences, I just saw
Mhm,
somebody who was can fill in my gaps. That's sort of what it
mhm,
looked like to me at that time,
mhm.
and,
So how did the relationship progress?
um, well, we just had fun together, went to,
Mhm,
hung out with his friends almost my friends became that group of friends. um, quite a lot of trouble. It wasn't it wasn't a safe place to be,
Mhm.
but, I ended up getting pregnant,
Mhm.
and that's when the abuse started.
Mhm.
That's when it
Were
started.
were you still living at home then, or were you living
Um,
with him?
well, my parents never kicked me out,
Mhm.
and we were both teenagers, so I
Mhm.
was never like, "You can't come home," or,
Mhm.
so I was always like there was a safe haven. There was always a
Mhm.
safe haven, whether I was with
Mhm.
him or not with him or his place, but it was never, I didn't have a home to go to. I always had my home
Mhm.
to go to. But
Right.
that's when also, okay, yeah, so that's when the abuse started, and um, he got me a dog, and he and abused the dog, and he got, and anything that would be to control me or to keep me in a place of anything that he was doing which wasn't right, he would accuse me of doing it was a lot of
Mhm.
manipulation and control
Mhm.
and fear, a lot of fear.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so I kind of felt once I was in that situation that once the baby was born, then things would get better. That was
Better.
sort of what
Mm.
I envisioned in my
Forever the optimist,
yeah.
right?
So once
Right.
once the baby was born, things would get better, and, they didn't.
Mhm.
They got, they got worse,
Mhm.
and I remember, that was the first time in my life and then once the baby was born, there was the threats of taking the baby away from me.
Mhm.
So that was, on top of the other control and manipulation was this threat.
So
And
you weren't actually married to him, were you?
no,
No,
and
but he
and
still had
partially
parental.
because we were young.
Right.
So, you know, we wanted to get married and, we had to wait till we were
Right.
18. That was, what the law
Right.
was, so that was also that idea of, what seemed to me at that time in my teenage mind as being a bad thing was that hidden blessing, in
Right.
the whole story, and so
Mhm.
we couldn't, and so we had
Mhm.
to wait, but then, um so then when things got to be totally unbearable for me, and I really wanted out, but, um and being that I had protective parents and I had people the out was always available to me, but in my fear, I didn't believe I had an out, and so
Mhm.
I felt trapped,
Right, of course.
and so it's at the first time in my life that I actually prayed,
Oh, wow.
and I turned to God and I said, I'm so trapped. I don't know what to do. Please, help me." So as you heard me pray with my daughter, that was my first real prayer
Prayer.
from the depth of my heart, I don't know how to get out of this situation. God, please, I know you're there. Can you just help me get me out?
Mhm.
And I just didn't know what to do. I just didn't know where to go, what to do. And so
You must have been so full of fear and so full of
yeah, I
just
just trapped. I just didn't,
trapped, right?
yeah. And
You
so
were you 18 at that
I
point
wasn't
when
18, which
you
is
were
also
still
part of the
17?
blessing. I was still 17. And and then I think the breaking point was I'm so when you're so into yourself, your problems and you're into your own internal world, you almost don't see other people and what they're going through, you know?
Mhm.
You
Mhm.
kinda just see what you're going through because it's all you could deal with. And, and
So who didn't you see? Like,
I
what
didn't
didn't
see
you
my
see?
parents and what they were
Oh, what they were
suffering.
going through.
Right.
Mm.
I'm just seeing what I'm going through, and I'm going
Mhm.
through this horror, and I didn't see any
Mhm.
way out. So, it was I think when my son Yossi he was 6 months old.
So wait, so you prayed because you believed in God? You believed that
Yes,
there was a
always
God?
believed in
You
God.
always
I always said
believed
to
in
my
God.
mom because my mother was a very spiritual person, and I'm sure that her prayers, even though she didn't know how to read Hebrew, was the
Right.
catalyst to almost every blessing that ever came to me, is that her
Mhm.
prayers are powerful mother's prayers. So, so it was when he was about my baby was 6 months old then, and I was, in my parents' house, and he was there with us, and my mother was holding the baby. And he hated my mother. Like I said, anything that I loved, it was almost like
Mm.
he was
Like a threat to him.
right, and so he was not nice to her in general,
Mm.
but, and knowing that she didn't approve of the relationship, I'm sure didn't help much
Right,
in him
right.
liking her, but, he just said to her, "Don't touch my baby."
Oh, wow.
And then when I heard him say that, it clicked in my mind, I'm not just hurting myself.
Mhm.
Sometimes you you hold things and you think you
Mhm.
can hold it or you can't hold it, but when you look at someone else and say that you love and say, "How much am I hurting this person that I love so much?"
Mhm.
And then, um, and that was the moment that I said, "I have to get out."
Mhm.
That was my aha moment. I
Mhm.
have to get out of this relationship.
Mhm. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So during the pregnancy, like, what were you feeling? You were just feeling this trappedness and that I'm just gonna stay? And then you had the baby, and
Well, I
then
think I was feeling like I already realized that I'm not in a good relationship. I knew that by then. He wasn't loyal, he wasn't there for me, and I knew that I wasn't in a good relationship, but I really like I said, I felt after the baby, the loyalty, which was lacking, would
Mhm.
be different because there's a
Right,
child and there's like and
right.
it's not like a crazy thought that there would be more loyalty or that you would be
Of
more
course.
given over to someone when
Once they have a child of
when they
yours,
have a child,
sure.
right?
Right.
So, um,
So you had this six-month-old baby and you decided you needed to get out.
right.
How did that work?
So I'm going to go backtrack my story a little bit to the theory or the reality that the cure comes before the illness. Before the
Mhm.
problem is the cure is already coming. And so I think my son Yossi referenced it when he in his story, because our stories are really the same story, they overlap. Um, of course, his life and what he has to deal with is different than mine, but our stories are similar stories. And once I told him he needed to give the story out, it freed me to tell my story. So I
Mhm.
wasn't free because I didn't want to hurt him in any way. S
Right.
So I had to protect him, and in protecting him, I couldn't really tell my story. So
And
that's how it
I think he felt the same way about you, like he
yeah,
wanted to protect you, so he wasn't sure that you would be okay.
right.
Right.
So, so to go back to the cure, so my oldest brother, um was in a mall in Cleveland, Ohio, and, like I said, we didn't have religious upbringing, like, we didn't know anything about or very little about our Judaism except that we were proud Jews, and so he met in a mall somebody who was had a stand where they were selling some Judaica, and they used that as a, catalyst for this Messiah, which is giving someone a mitzvah.
Hmm.
Which is really like this idea of lighting up someone's soul. That's all it is.
Mhm.
Every Jew is connected. It's a connection that you have forever to be part of your Judaism. But you give someone one mitzvah and you've lit up their soul, and that's what happened to him. So he it was his bar mitzvah, and in this mall he put on tefillin for the first time in his life, which is very fascinating because the person I don't it going I don't know that anybody ever had a table in that mall ever,
Mhm.
ever.
Oh, wow.
and it just that and the person that was on Mifsaim didn't even live in Cleveland. He was there for 1 summer, and that 1
Wow.
summer he was there was the summer that I was pregnant, and
Mm.
he, put on tefillin with my brother, and my brother bought a yarmulke or something that was a Judaica, and that was his it ignited his soul, and my brother, um, is a
So
very
this is a younger brother.
older, he's 7 years
Older,
older, yeah,
older.
so he's
Okay.
very spiritual, he's like a Baal Shem Tov Yid. He's
Mm,
like just as who he is, he's a very brilliant mind and but he's simple and just so connect like just Baal Shem Tov Yid, like, which is really a Jew that's simple, but once you light up that soul, it's on fire. Like, he was
mm,
just, and so he started going to the Chabad house while I was pregnant, and, um and, he would tell me about things, but I was totally, like, just, like, thinking that was pretty weird, but that was pretty much
right,
the way it
right.
was, but, anyway, I confided in him, my brother,
Mhm,
then going back to where we're at now in my story, which was when my son was 6 months old, and I confided in him, "I have to get out."
mhm,
And, I don't know who to go to or where to go, but I know I have this one social worker that I know who, during my troubled times, I had been connected with her. And so I went to this social worker and I confided, "This is what I'm going through, and I need help, and I need to get out." And so, the first thing she did is she said, "Well, you know, we're going to press battery charges because
mm,
there's battery here that's going on, and and that will get him out of the picture for at least 24 hours because he'll
mhm,
be in jail, and that will be a good time for you to make your move because
mm.
he won't be around." So, so that's what we did. We pressed charges, and he was arrested, and he was out of the picture for long enough for me to collect my things and figure out where I'm going to go. And
Wow.
um, and then um, my the counselor was calling every shelter for battered women and in Cleveland, and that one would take one under 18. So
Mm,
there was no place to really go. And of course, I couldn't go to any friends. He knew everybody. I couldn't go to any family. Like, he knew everybody. And
mhm.
being in jail for 24 hours or whatever is not going to be enough to prevent him from pursuing me.
Of course.
And
Wow.
so, um,
Were you panicking? Like, like, just listening to it, it makes my heart race.
I was beginning to feel free because I made that
Yeah,
move. It was my first
interesting.
step to freedom. I stepped out and
Mm,
I made that move. So I was um, not really feeling fear. I had my baby.
mhm,
I had my freedom.
mhm,
I had someone who's trying to find a place for me to be,
mhm.
and she found a place for overnight. And then I'm gonna go the wisdom of my parents because it goes back to my like and always never giving up and always being there for me no matter what I was going through. And so she said because she already knew about Chabad from my brother, she called the Chabad.
Who? Your
My
mother?
mother called the Chabad
Mhm,
house while I was in this place for 24 hours, just a place to
mhm.
be, and they were able to take me in. And so, that would definitely be the last place that he would look, so that seemed like a really good place to go.
Right.
So, I went with so my mother and came with me, she brought me to the Chabad house for the first time, and, I remember actually, the Alevskis were not in town then, it was this time of the year, um, right before my 18th birthday, which is also that whole idea of the blessing, hidden in whatever seemed like a curse, but it was really a blessing because I wasn't 18, I wasn't able to be, in
To go
this
to the
other place.
shelter.
I couldn't go to the
Right.
shelter, and because, so that was so that's where we ended up going, and so I don't know, like, I know that they have the women's convention now this time of the year. I don't know if that's where she was, but like
Mm,
I said, it was right before my 18th birthday.
mhm,
The Shabbos is my birthday, so this is
mhm,
this is the exactly this time of the year that I first walked into the Chabad house, and, um, and the rabbi that was there, like, there's students that, yeshiva students that, after they finish their learning, they give a year over to, like, help volunteer somewhere, and he was working in the Chabad house. So he was the
mhm.
rabbi that was there when I walked in. It was not either of the rabbi or rebbitzin. I didn't meet them then. And it was Eli Tauger. He's like famous for a lot of his things that he
Oh,
writes in
wow.
translation. So he was the
Wow.
bacher then, and he
He
was yeah
right.
yeah he was the
He was a
unmarried
young man, the
unmarried
unmarried young assistant rabbi,
assistant
right?
rabbi. So I
Right.
walked into the office with my mother, and he just pointed to a picture of the Rebbe, and he said, "Because of this man, you're here."
Oh, wow.
And I had no idea what in the world he was talking
He's
about.
talking about
But, um, I had no idea who the Rebbe was, or that the Rebbe had this network of Chabad houses all over the world, or that he was a world leader, leading Jews everywhere, and that
Mhm,
and that the person that even the awareness that the person that was, putting on tefillin was also
mhm,
because of the Rebbe. So the Rebbe was
mhm.
the force behind all these things, and I kind of even feel when I was crying and sending my prayers up to God that, God put a message into the Rebbe, "This girl needs help." So
Right. Right.
so that's all part of that, miraculous process,
Right.
and, while I was at the Chabad house, they were trying to figure out the next step for me, um, and in the background, not knowing what they were working on, I was there. I wasn't gonna be there that long. Where am I gonna go
Mhm,
next? What I'm gonna do? That was sort of what they were trying to analyze and figure out. But, during those few days, that's when we had the bris
mm,
for Yassi. So, he which is also like in every story, there's that beautiful divine providence that God is sort of like, the miracles within what seems like the curse, like I said, and I
mhm,
really believe that that's ultimately the truth. There's everything is an ultimate blessing. And so I was at the Chabad house and they were going to do the bris, but as being a very strong Jew, like being my identity as being Jewish was very strong. So in the hospital when he was born, they asked me if I wanted him to have a bris, which as a Jew, of course, like every baby, they called it, of course, a circumcision, but I said yes
mhm,
because that's what Jews do. Jews have circumcision, so he was already circumcised, but
mhm.
they only had to take a little prick or something, like to draw a drop of blood. I don't even remember him crying over it, but that's when he got his Jewish name.
Mm,
So that's what I'm gonna say, the divine providence of that whole story is I didn't know any Hebrew. Um, my parents weren't like part of conservative reform. They had this traditional background. So the couple times that I went to shul or the few times it was Orthodox. And I remember
mm.
going and even like looking at a sitter, and to me upside down looked better than right side up. But but,
Right.
anyway, so I had no idea of any, Jewish names, and I didn't
Right.
have any idea of what they would mean if I did pick a Jewish name. So that's why I'm saying that because it's divine providence, what someone's name is like, so my
Yeah.
parents suggested Yosef, which was my, grandfather, my father's father, and, and then, someone just threw out the name Baruch, and I had been calling him Bobby, so I don't know, Baruch B, it sounded like that would fit, so it ended up becoming Yosef Baruch, and, I didn't know what it meant, but now I do, that Yosef Baruch means an added blessing. So I
Mm.
have to say that, that anybody who's in a situation where they have a child and they're alone, or they're concerned whether they should have a child or not have a child, every single child is that Yosef Baruch. It's that added
Mm.
blessing, and I can't even begin at that point to realize what a blessing
Hmm.
he would be to me, but not just to me, but he has a place in this world, and he's a blessing to thousands, if not, people that
Right.
he's affecting and helping. And so, that's what he
Today, that Yosef Baruch is a shliach. He's an emissary
he's
of the
an
Rebbe.
emissary. But he was always had this nature of being there for somebody in there that's the downtrodden, like,
Mm.
totally the opposite of, like, he was always, like, kind of, like, stronger or big, and he would never allow anybody to be bullied. So if he ever
Mm.
saw I got parents that told me, like, he would be the defender. Like, he would
Wow.
stick up for anybody who's anybody would try to bother with, 'cause and he was big, so they would
Mm.
respect
They would
it.
listen, right?
They'd listen.
Right.
So it's just who he is as a person, not
Mhm.
even, what his
What
title
it does.
is or
Right.
what he's called, but he's always been there for other people and even his siblings, like, he would stand up for anybody who needed him at any hour, and,
Mm.
he's very, so that's who he is. He's an added blessing. That's
Right.
exactly what he is.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So where did you go from there? You're in this Chabad house, you're trying to still figure out where you're gonna go, so what
Right,
happened
and I
next?
remembered, like, this feeling at that time. Like I said, I came there because I was, um, in a situation that I needed to make a change, and I
Mhm.
wanted to make a change because I knew I was in a bad situation. But I had this moment where I realized that I really want to raise him as a Jew. It really means a
Mm.
lot to me, and I don't know how to do that. And
Mm.
so it wasn't just I'm escaping,
Mhm.
but it was also a feeling of I can like what I'm doing for him. Like in
Mhm.
other words, if I was doing it just because I wanted to escape, it would have nothing to hold me in it.
Mhm.
Like I would find another place, another way, but this is where it became important because I'm doing this for my child. How will he ever know he's a Jew if I don't know he's
Mm.
a Jew? But,
Mm.
um, I kinda wanna go back to my reference of my idealism and my feeling of Mashiach or freedom, you know? Um, then, like, this idea of utopia and like, everybody just being this, but I had that moment that I did finally leave, and I got strong enough and brave enough to leave, and anybody who is in a situation that they feel trapped, um, I encourage them that they could do it, they can get out, reach out to one person and reach out to God. And there's no
Mm.
situation that you're trapped in that you can't get out of, because there is a good God, and there's gonna be one person in your life that will be that catalyst to help you through it. So,
Wow.
so I remember that moment where I had that one night that I stayed, I mentioned that I stayed somewhere before I went to the Chabad house. I remember holding my baby and running in an open field and just saying, I went out of I'm free, like that I'm
Mm.
free, like that feeling of like, "Oh my gosh, I'm free." So I felt my personal being in Egypt, being freed from
Mm.
Egypt, and now I'm going to something. And I didn't know
Mm.
exactly what I was going to, but I knew that it was going to educate me on how to be a Jewish mother. And
Mm.
that's where we got up to at that time. And as they
Wow.
were searching for a place for me to be, I think their first They found someone in Crown Heights that was willing to house us temporarily, and their goal was, it was a young family with, several small children, and, they opened their home that we could come stay there temporarily, and I think what they wanted is that I could go to Beis Chana, which was, it's a school for Bala Tshuva girls in Minnesota that Modest Friedman at the time was running, and, um, and it was, like, sort of all like, you just go in there and you get totally,
Immersed.
immersed, that's the word, immersed in Judaism, and they didn't take me because they didn't have facilities to take someone with a child at that time,
Mm.
and
Mhm.
so they were trying to figure out what's the next step for me because obviously well, that because I couldn't go to them and I couldn't stay in this family that long. It was a temporary place to be. So I was in Cleveland maybe less than a week.
Mm. Mhm.
They gave me a plane ticket and off I was to New York, and that was my journey, to the unknown, totally unknown, with my little, six-month-old baby.
Wow.
And so
And
so
having just turned 18.
and I just turned I j when I was
18,
there, I
wow.
just turned 18 and pretty clueless, like, idealistic because 'cause I'm still this idealistic person, but totally clueless of, how to be a mother, you know,
Mm,
I
sure.
I didn't really I was the youngest, I didn't, like, even have a lot of experience besides some babies sitting here and there, but I was clueless, and so this young mother, um, whose house I was staying with, you know, kinda perceived that I was clueless.
Wow.
Not knowing, like, that what that journey could possibly look like with this young girl that's coming out of this situation, and here she is, um, but in the intern, I started going to Machon Chana, so I went to my first class of
Which is a
Judaism
school in
in
Crown
Crown
Heights.
Heights that's, it wasn't full-time like the other school, but it was more like evening classes, Sunday classes, and that's sort of what they had that I remember. But I went to my first class, and the first lesson that I learned in this class that I still remember is that everything that a person goes through, you know, you can handle anything you're going through because it's by God, given by God, and you have the
Mhm,
ability to get through whatever it is. Like you have this overriding ability from this gift from God, whatever it
mm,
is. And so this young lady told me, when she's talking to me, she said, "Why don't you, like, this is her idea, I think it would be better for you and for your baby if you put him up for adoption,
mm,
and, you get someone who could really properly, raise him. Get a
mm.
Jewish family." And here I am in my brilliant new well, God gave him to me, of course, I just learned this. He's for me, and
Yeah.
I for sure can handle this because it came from I can do this. I don't know if she liked my answer that much, but
Wow.
but that was what I felt, and I kept that as my foundation for anything that I went through, is this is handpicked by me and, for me, and I can do this, and I think it was very empowering to have that as your message that you can, um that you're not alone and
Mhm,
that you have the ability and the power to overcome and to handle whatever you're given. So
mm,
that was, and then I found well, I think I went away for in a bungalow, and I met some people there for that summer. Because remember, this is going into the summer,
right.
and, and then I took, like, some sort of, like, training course just to be able to get some kind of job, to be able to support me and him, um in the following year.
You're
But I found an apartment. I think the training course, which was attractive, is they kind of paid you to take the course, so you sort of get some sort of stipend, so it was like a beginning. Um, but I, but that's where my Jewish education started. I was enrolled in Machon Chana, and, I did 1 full year, in Beis Rivka, and I, was a student of Machon Chana for many years while I was in Crown Heights. But what was really beautiful, and also a gift from God, is that I had this basement apartment I rented, but I became part of their family, the family
mm,
that owned the building, and so the house. And so I was their Shabbos guest every Shabbos. And and they had like, very active kids that were young, and they'd come down and play. So it was like a blessing for them to have like their kids having a place to play, and they play with my little boy, and they became very much part of their family. But what they did for me, which enabled me to go learn, was they said, like I said, like they're really like family. And I'm going to shout out their name because they were very good to me, and that's
sure.
the Eckhouse family in Crown Heights. So
Beautiful.
they said, "You go out and learn at night, and we'll open our door, and we'll open your door, and we'll check on your baby so that
Mhm,
you'll be able to go and not have to worry about, babysitting."
mhm.
And so they did that for me, and we were learning together. We both were learning together what it was to be a Jew, what Judaism was, and how to and that was our journey. We started having our journey of becoming connected with the Rebbe. That was the time when the Rebbe was giving for ins, and when Yossi was little, we would go. The Rebbe would give out nickels to the children for tzedakah, and that connection for us as being like like I said, like I don't know, like this lost girl to a daughter of Chabad. Like all of a sudden,
Mm,
I'm a daughter of the Rebbe, um, and all that, all and the that tremendous connection of it's beyond explanation. I don't even know how to explain it. Like being connected to the greatest leader of the entire generation that's running almost the entire world, and yet to be there for a small child or for a lost girl or for anybody, any Jew, with open arms. And I think, and all nations. I mean, people came to him from everywhere. He's like
mm.
just a leader for all people. And
How did you feel you were connected to him? Like, because you lived in Crown Heights? Like, how did you feel this connection? How did you
um,
feel like he was your leader or you're
I guess as
connected?
I guess as we started to learn, and I went to Farbrengens, and every time you would go to a Farbrengen, they had headphones at that. You'd feel like the Rebbe's speaking to you. I don't know how to
Mm,
explain a tzaddik. Like, how do you explain a tzaddik? Like, a tzaddik is just, there's an intrinsic connection. And
mm,
when you're there in his presence, you just feel that intrinsic connection. And also the fact that I am connected to my Judaism, knowing that it's because of the Rebbe, which is really true. Like,
mhm,
there's there's no one out there like reaching out for a girl in need, bringing them
mm,
home,
mhm,
and it was coming home.
mhm,
But over the years, like getting blessings,
mhm,
um, guidance, the
mhm,
wisdom, the advice, like as you're learning, you get to this deep understanding of who you are, who your soul is, and that there's an intrinsic connection to the great tzaddik of our generation.
mhm.
But
Wow.
that was our yeah, that was our
Ye
that was the beginning of our journey, beginning of our education. And there was other people that we met that was also part of it. I remember, like, one of the people that were really, really like, as he's speaking about his racial differences and how that was hard because we came into a city that was very racially divided.
Mhm.
And, and because of that, there was definitely looks or people that would not always be as accepting. Um, but one of the people that was extremely warm and connecting, um, to not just to me, but to him. And I felt that was like as a small child or as his baby, was one of the teachers at the time of Machon Chana, which was Joseph Baruch Wurzburg. And so he
Mm.
felt like they had the same name and he felt this special connection to him. And I remember like the first Seder that I ever went to was at their house. And I remember him like going up to my baby, who's still a baby then, and saying, he called him Yosef Baruch because they shared the same name. He said, Yosef Baruch, it's time we have to have a Seder. It's time for you to go to sleep. And like somehow he just went to sleep.
Wow.
So
Wow.
yeah, so that was but
Right.
there's some the point is that there was some really warm, accepting, loving people, and the most loving and accepting of all, of course, is the Rebbe, which he said in
Mhm.
his story, where he felt totally accepted and not judged. It saw him as a soul, a neshama.
Mhm.
But one of the things in the journey and the connection with the Rebbe, I'll say, is when you want guidance and advice from someone who is, you know, I don't know, like how can you explain someone who is doing so much and still has time to keep doing it for everybody? I don't know. Like there's
Mm.
no explanation. That's part of the miracle. But one of the things the Rebbe instructed during the times that I was in Crown Heights was to get a mashpia, to get an advisor. But
Mm.
he didn't just say that I'm doing this so that I won't have, that I don't have the time for you. He gave the blessing that whoever that person is, they're going to give you the advice I am giving you. So
Mm.
he's giving that special power to another person who's now a conduit to give you that perfect advice. Like it's not
Mhm.
just going to someone who might give you the wrong advice, but you have like the special blessing over that. And he wanted to write in to say who your mashpia is. Like he really felt that, you know, to give that
Everyone should have
blessing.
that.
Yeah,
Mhm.
not just to have it, but to be blessed to be able to be that, like, do the connection, and I'm telling you that that's and so I was very fortunate. So that's another connection to the Rebbe, knowing that this person that I
Mhm.
chose is really the Rebbe's advice to me. Like, it's not
Mhm.
just, like you said, maybe yeah, maybe no." Like, I'm really getting
Right.
the right advice. But the person that I had chosen at that time was Rebbetzin Baumgarten, which is, Rabbi Groner of Shalom, his sister in Crown
Mm.
Heights, and, at that time, she was involved in matchmaking, but, very strong, um, very strong and very warm person, and when I would ask her advice, I knew 100% that I was getting, that perfect guidance and perfect advice. That's also connection to the Rebbe. As you asked, like, how did I feel it? I
Mhm.
f I really felt it with her too, and she protected me, like, not just almost like he's like that father figure that was like this, like, my mother figure, like, she really
Mhm.
protected me. I feel like, when I was starting to go out
To date.
to date, I started dating, and, um, there was someone that I was set up with, and she said to me, "No, I met him. I didn't get a good feeling. You
Mm.
shouldn't go out with him." And I cold turkey, I said, "Okay, I'm not." And the person that suggested it was quite upset that, in my situation, how could I just be so, like, turning away? He had to, he looked like he had everything going for him, why would I
Mhm.
turn such a thing away? And it was totally on her tuition, her, trust that
Mhm.
she's giving me the advice the Rebbe is gonna give me, and she's saying that to go ahead with. Um, so I'm just gonna say this because it's so powerful, and I think everybody should realize that, when the Rebbe gives a blessing for something like that, it's not just, "Oh, it's a good idea," but it's so crucial for
Mhm.
every person to have that benefit. Um, so it turned out later that, he had been married before, and he was abusive,
Oh, wow.
and so her just,
She
protected.
had the right intuition. Wow.
Right, but the blessing of being the
Sure.
catalyst for the Rebbe, and so, I'm just saying that's how another connection to the Rebbe at that time that I felt, besides the Farbrengens, besides the learning his Torah, which is what I was
Right.
much of what I was learning, which is automatically connected, besides the warmth of him giving out the nickels to the children and that connection he always felt with my son, um,
Right.
the being in a Farbrengen and hearing what you need to hear because he's talking to each one what they have to hear at every Farbrengen, which is beyond understanding also. Those were how I felt connected.
Right. Did you ever go back to Cleveland during that time?
I did go back to Cleveland. My mother also in her, I would like I said, they were very simple on the outside, but had a lot of deep wisdom on the inside, and my mother had told me at some point that, he was, because he like I said, he was troubled. It wasn't just, like, for no
Mhm.
reason. And so she said, like, "Oh, she saw on the news that, that he was killed, like he's not alive anymore." And so I would go back without any fear. Like
Mhm.
I just feel like, "Oh, I don't have anything to worry about, right? He's not even alive." But I didn't know that he really was.
Mhm.
But I did go back. I went back to visit my family.
So that
And then I
boyfriend
would be
he never did anything, like, he never pursued you, you never
well, he kept writing letters. He kept trying to find me. It wasn't like he didn't. Um,
he wrote letters to your mother, to your parents' home.
he tried to find me. It wasn't like he didn't. It wasn't
Right.
like he didn't, I mean, I think he really realized that I was a really phenomenal person, and I think that, he could never find me. I was like,
Mm.
but it wasn't that he didn't try. But,
Right.
um, but when I came
Eh
back, I think my son, like, I think I was oblivious, but my son remembered my mother being very nervous and very, very protective that he shouldn't go
mm,
out and that, like, she really
yeah,
did know that there was some risk there.
right.
But yeah, I did go back to visit, and then I did meet the Alevskis, and then I became, you know, I beget I got to know them after time because I did come back to visit, yes.
And what did your parents think of your transformation, becoming a religious
Well, being that what I came from to what I went from. They were
Right.
absolutely, supportive, and even if not, like my older brother was always supportive because I think my mother came from some background, like her mother was more religious, even though her father wasn't, but, I think she valued it and appreciated it, and I think my parents both did. So they
Mhm.
were very happy with this and very supportive, and over time, they also took on, a kosher home,
Mhm.
and, they became more connected, through our journey.
Right. And eventually you met your husband,
Right, so my mashpia, or my guide, is Mrs. Baumgarten, is the
Mrs.
one.
Baumgartner?
She only fixed me up once, and she fixed me up with my husband, and, it was, I'm gonna say, another blessing that was, like, in this journey was, um, during that time, it was about 5 years that I was in Crown Heights. um, Mrs. Alevsky, had another young woman that was from Cleveland who, her husband divorced her with a small baby. So she was in a situation where she was left alone with this baby, and, and so that she connected us. So she came
Mhm.
she came to live with me in Crown Heights. Became very, very close friends, but, um, I was there supporting her through this hard time that she was going through, and she was supporting me. And one of the things which I'm bringing this up because that was part of the journey is like, um, she said to me, "Don't look down, look up." So when you're
Mhm.
going to look for someone to marry, don't look, "Oh, someone's gonna accept me and my child." Don't look that way. Look at someone who's higher than, someone
Mhm.
who's going to be see above it, not below.
Mhm.
So someone who's a
Mhm.
really better person, not a less
Mhm.
than person you have to compromise, a better than person. And, um, and Mrs. Baumgarten, like I said, was protective, and so she would not fix me up with somebody less than. It had to
Mhm.
be somebody that she felt was good enough for me. Like there was a,
Mhm.
um, a lot of respect, a lot of respect. And so when and in that process of what is that going to look like, I remember being with a friend and describing my husband. I
Mhm.
described him. So when I met him, it was very clear that this is the better than person. This is the person.
Mhm.
And so and and the reason I brought him into Yossi and him and again together to the Rebbe as my son, told his story, why we chose to bring him together is because it wasn't just marrying me. It's a family now. And
So
so,
you for those who didn't hear the story,
oh,
you go like, just tell it to us.
okay. So we got the Rebbe's blessing to get married. And Mrs. Baumgarten was really tough on my husband not to hurt me. And so make your decision, but do not hurt this girl. so, so, um, so we got
Not hurt you by saying no or by rejecting you or
no, no, by dragging it on. Whatever
dragging
your
it on?
decision is, no one's pressured to marry anybody. And in Judaism, you have to want it. But but
Just don't take too long.
well, don't
Don't drag it,
or don't don't play with someone's emotions because she already
for
knew that
sure.
I was invested, that I thought this was the right thing. I told her that. So if you're feeling it's not, don't make her don't play with
Suffer
her
through that,
feelings,
sure.
right. So just make that
Mhm.
distinction. Do you want this? Is this right for you? But it was more like, but not to pressure him to say yes. He could say
Right, of
no as
course.
much as he wanted. But anyway, we wrote together to the Rebbe for the blessing to get married, and so we got the answer, and I like even like that feeling like I'm kind of a very like excitable, like emotional, like so
Mhm.
I was at work, and when I got the the call from Rabbi Groner that, got the Rebbe's blessing, I was, like, jumping up and down and all over the place, and I remember, like, it was a Jewish company, but they were, like, totally, like like, he just didn't and proposed to you on the phone? Like, what was that?
Right.
So, it was, we got the blessing from the Rebbe, and like I said, you can't nobody that doesn't know what a great tzaddik the Rebbe is cannot understand, and I don't understand it. It's beyond any comprehension of what a true tzaddik, is. But right there, when we got this blessing, and we went to get the blessing from the Rebbe to get married, he and we didn't notice it at the time, but in the corner where he put my name, which was before I was married, was Slotkin, and my husband's name Kulik, and underneath he put Chicago, and we never noticed it.
Mhm.
So that was like
Mhm.
part of the Rebbe had already given us a blessing on where our destiny was, and we didn't even like we think we're searching, but we already had our destiny set out for us. But so in those days, I think we're one of the last ones that were able to get private audience, by the Rebbe before you get married, and, um, and so we were already within our week of getting married, which usually, you don't see your you don't see each other. You have a week where you're kind of not seeing each other, but going into the Rebbe, you're able to go in together because
Mhm.
you're by the Rebbe. And so we kind of waited in separate places because we weren't really waiting together, but I was waiting with my son and he was waiting, and then we got called in when it was our time to go. But we brought him in showing the special how special my husband was, is this is his moment with the Rebbe, with his new kala, his new bride, and I brought my son, and it was like,
Mhm.
because it's not just me and you, it's a family, and this is who we
Mhm.
are. So I'm not just marrying you, but I'm totally committed. This is my son too. And that's the beginning of our relationship. Because even when I was going out, before I met him, I told him, "We're gonna find a tati." Like, it wasn't just, "I'm finding a husband." I'm finding someone who's going to um, take the responsibility and make it, like, totally own it. Like, it's not like, "Oh, this is yours and this is mine," um,
Right.
which is it's more than. It's definitely more than. It's not an easy thing to envision that somebody would wanna do that, you know? And I even have a memory, like, one of the people that were involved with the balachuvas, setting them up, um, and I was asking, like, "Why aren't you giving me, like, any suggestions?" And he took out this giant black book, and he said, "I asked every one of them if they would want a child, and none of them do."
Mm.
So so
Wow.
it's not like a typical thing.
Sure.
It's a more than, and,
Right.
yeah.
And I don't know your husband, but I hear he's a very special man. You how long have you been married now?
40 42 years?
Wow. And how many children do you have?
12.
12. Wow. And you lived all these years in Chicago until recently when you moved to Pomona.
Right,
And
right,
you have children who are on shluchos
right,
around the world,
right,
which
right.
and so your story kinda came full circle. It's in a beautiful, beautiful way.
Yeah, it did, and I think, like, just to, um, say that, just to really emphasize, over the years in Chicago, I was the, coordinator for the Mitzrayim campaign, and being that,
Mm,
because that's what lit my life up. It lit my life
mhm,
up and, gave me all the blessings that I have in a very revealed way. I don't have to hide, try to figure it out. They're definitely very revealed blessings, but it came from that one mitzvah. So I was, very much involved over all the years of the Nishay, the Lubavitch Women's Organization, um, getting people out there, women out there, to give, candlesticks out, or to give different mitzvahs out, and light up other people's lives and the way that my life was lit up. And that's another reason I'm so passionate about Geula and Mashiach, and that utopia world where every Jew loves each other like another Jew, which I really believe we can, and I've seen it a lot more as time has progressed. But you see the soul, you don't see the body as the differences. But because I tasted it, like, when you taste something, it becomes like, I know the Rebbe said that this is the time we're living in, but when you had your own personal feeling of what does that
mm,
feel like for you, um, you just there's the taste is there. Now you're ready for the whole thing. And I just say, like, with my special needs daughter, because I think that's my youngest child. He was my oldest, and my special needs daughter, um, I think, has brought me, like, that first leaving, that terrible situation that I was in, and coming to a place of freedom, but it was all from God. And then,
mhm,
like, the final geula, or the final redemption, isn't all from, gifts from it's us and our efforts. So I feel like, um, when I really started healing and I started really going inside, and, and being able to even tell this story, like, to be able to be free to do that, that's, like, from the inside out, not from
Mm,
above to below, and so I think she brought me to that. And so she's my ultimate blessing of bringing me to my own personal redemption where I could actually say this and not be inhibited. I can't tell anybody it's okay to go out of yourself and be there. If I know my son, when he told his story, it wasn't just about him, but if it could help anybody who's going through anything that he went through, then it's all worth it. And I had a few mashpiyas since then, and still the connection of the Rebbe through going miracles and going to the Ohel where he's buried and writing in. And it's when you're talking about a tzaddik, it's so amazing how you can get guidance and you could get no matter where or when you are, that you see these miracles in your life keep manifesting in so many ways. But yeah, so that's my blessing. My final blessing is this youngest child that's kinda got me out of myself. Before it was like just like I said, it was all from above, but now it has to come from within, and you could become, you know, who you're meant to be, shine your light, and if there could be one person out there who sees this that might be in a situation they need to get out of, and maybe it will be encouragement for them to get out of it, then it's worth it. And if there is anybody out there that that doesn't know the power of going out and giving one person one mitzvah to do, that it could
mm,
change the catalyst of many lives. So, my brother living as a Jew, and my parents living as a Jew, and here my family, like you said, it's many children and grandchildren, and they are all like just extraordinary people. And you look at them and you say, like, wow, like, each one of them are, like, just such good people. Like, they're all like these blessings to the world, every single one of them, and how they help others and are there for others and are such good-hearted and good people. You just know that if someone can know, like, you could come from here, from and end up there, like, if it can encourage
mm.
like I said, if it can encourage anybody in any situation to move on with their lives, to be strong enough to do that. I guess if a 17-year-old girl can do it, then it seems like, that that's my hope that it should be. And if somebody is feeling like, what's the point of doing mifsaim or going out and giving a mitzvah to someone, um, you could change someone's life forever. And
Wow,
and and I've seen
powerful.
yeah, and I've seen many stories when all these years, like that one mitzvah that you gave someone was so dear and so precious to them, um, and it's a start, and you don't know where it's going. But I wanna say one thing that was, like, also a gift and a little miracle is the person that gave out the candlestick, or I mean, not did the tefillin on my brother, ended up being a neighbor of mine in Chicago,
Mm.
and we ended up
Oh,
finding out
wow.
later, but if you could see, like, God, divine providence, like, to be encouraged that they would never have known what happened to me or my family, but God gave them that gift to see what could happen, and that one good deed, we just can change a whole world, and that's what happened.
Beautiful. Wow, powerful. Frumma, thank you so much. This was so beautiful. We really
Yeah,
appreciate your hearing your story, hearing your journey, and hearing your beautiful wisdom. Thank
thank
you.
you. Thank you for all you do, and we should just, go to the Geula, right?
Absolutely. We're ready. Yeah,
Okay, thank
absolutely.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow, Frumma Kulik, what an incredible woman. When I heard her in Shul, I just knew that there was so much wisdom behind this woman. When I met her, I just felt that this woman has so much to share. And she told me afterwards that she was so hesitant about sharing her story because this was the first time that she shared it. And with any story that we share, there's often this overexposure and the shame that we feel. Should we be sharing it? Shouldn't we? But she felt she needed to do it. She got the blessings from her mashbiim, her mentors, who, of course, she feels is a blessing from the Rebbe, and the Rebbe's blessing himself to really share her story because she felt if she could share her story and help one other person, then it was worthwhile. And I just felt there was such an incredible part, so many incredible parts to her story of this young child, this young girl who had was trapped in such a situation, 17, that's all she was. And that's when she made such monumental change in her life. And how it all started with that person in the shopping mall going out there, putting on tefillin on her brother, and how her whole life completely changed and evolved because of that. It's really an incredible story that really can touch all of us. The one act that we can all do, that act of courage, and how she expressed it. Never feel that you're trapped. Always feel that God is with you and that you have the ability. All you need is that prayer to God, that prayer that actually started her out to really completely change your situation. She is blessed with a beautiful, beautiful family, including Yosef. He has many, many other siblings, 12 all in all, who are just lights as well themselves. And this is where it all started. If you enjoy watching these interviews, I hope that you are signed up at Chabad.org/extraordinary. We are on YouTube. We are on all podcast platforms. Give us a like, drop us a comment. We love to read your comments. And thank you so much for watching and for being part of this extraordinary community.